Once upon a time, a king and queen ruled deep beneath the ocean with 6 beautiful princess daughters. The mermaids could swim anywhere they wanted in the sea, except the surface. But on each princess's 15th birthday, she was allowed to visit the surface, just for a single day. When the youngest princess, Elizabeth, turned 15, she finally rose to the surface for the first time, and there she saw a grand royal ship. Suddenly, the prince aboard the ship fell into the sea. Without thinking, Elizabeth rushed to save him, pulling him safely to shore. She stayed beside him for a moment, but she couldn't stay on land for long, afraid he might wake, see her tail, and be frightened. In her heart, the little mermaid wished she could have legs, just like a human, so she could be with him. So she swam deep into the ocean to the lair of the evil sorcerer, Luke. He offered her a deal. He would give her human legs, and if the prince truly loved her, she could stay human forever. But if he didn't, her soul would belong to him, and he would control her for all eternity. Elizabeth agreed. When she returned to the prince's world, though, her heart sank because she saw him with another woman, thinking that this woman had been the one to save him, and he decided to marry her instead. Heartbroken, Elizabeth could only watch as the sorcerer claimed her soul forever. At that moment, the grandmother finished the tale. It had been a story she loved to tell her granddaughters, Lily and Jenny. Jenny's eyes grew wide. "Are mermaids real?" she asked. Her grandmother smiled softly. "Once there was a girl who believed in mermaids and fairies," she said. "Her name was Ella. Ella is a 10-year-old girl who lives with her uncle, Cam, after losing both her parents. She loves playing with her friends, but one day she suddenly falls very ill. It turns out Ella has a strange condition. She can't run or play like the other kids. Even the smallest effort leaves her so weak that she needs a long time to rest. Cam searches everywhere for a cure, but Ella, she believes there's another reason for her illness. She thinks she's a mermaid, sick because she's not living in the sea with her mermaid sisters. Of course, Cam just laughs at the idea. He gives her her medicine and reminds her mermaids don't exist. They're just fairy tale characters. We learn that Cam is actually a writer of fantasy stories. One day, his editor tells him about a rumor spreading in Mississippi about magical water that can cure any illness. People call it mermaid water because they believe anyone who drinks water a mermaid has swum in will be healed. The man who discovered it, a doctor named Luke. Intrigued by the story, Cam decides to investigate. And deep down, he can't help but hope the rumors are true, because this might just be the cure Ella has been waiting for. Soon after, Cam takes Ella and they head off to Mississippi. They stay at a relative's house, a kind woman named Lorraine. She shows them around and points to a treehouse in the garden. Ella's eyes light up. She insists on seeing it, and Cam goes with her, worried she might overdo it. While they explore, she spots a lake at the far end of the forest, and even a circus nearby. She begs Cam to take her there. Later, he meets Betty, a woman who says the magical water healed her. She couldn't walk before drinking it. Curious, Cam asks Betty to gather everyone who's been cured, so he can talk to them and write his report. That night, Cam takes Ella to the circus. She's overjoyed. It's her very first time. But what fascinates her most is the tent of a fortune teller named Tora. As soon as Ella steps inside, Tora takes her hand and tells her she carries the power of the ocean in her heart. She gives Ella a seashell necklace and warns Cam to watch over her. A dark force is closing in. Cam feels uneasy, but brushes it off. After all, he doesn't believe in magic. Later, they go to watch a magic show by a man named Luke, the same guy who claims he's a doctor. Luke promises to show a real magical mermaid. At first, the crowd doesn't believe him. Then, he brings out a huge tank, and inside, a mermaid appears. Ella is amazed. "I always knew mermaids were real," she says. Walking closer to the tank, completely mesmerized, Cam, though, tells her it's just a trick. Luke hears him, gets offended, and insists there's no trick. The mermaid is real. Then he throws Cam out. Cam leaves with Ella and later notices an ad for mermaid water. When he asks the vendor, the man says it's all sold out. Ella spots the big Ferris wheel and insists on riding it. Cam agrees, though he worries she might get too tired. While she's enjoying the ride, Cam notices a group of men harassing a young woman. He rushes over to help and realizes she's the same mermaid from the show. Before he can say anything, Luke appears, grabs the girl, and walks away. The next day, Cam heads to the church. There, he meets people claiming they were healed by the mermaid's magical water. He talks to Peachy, who says her leg used to hurt terribly and no treatment worked until she drank the water. Then, another man says that as soon as he drank it, his health improved. And finally, a bald man proudly tells Cam that after drinking the water, he even grew hair. That's when Cam realizes something's off. These people are under some kind of spell, and Luke is just tricking them to sell the water. He decides to confront him. At that moment, Luke is playing the piano. Cam asks him about the water, how he makes it. Luke just smiles and says, "No magician reveals his secrets." Cam keeps pressing, asking about the mermaid and the water, but when Luke sees that Cam doesn't believe in him or in magic at all, he throws him out. Now Cam is sure Luke is a fraud. Later, he goes for a walk with Ella, and they run into the mermaid. The moment Cam sees her, he says to Ella, "See? She's just a girl like you, no mermaid." But Ella insists that mermaids have legs like humans when they're away from the water. She goes over to meet her and learns her name is Elizabeth. Suddenly, Elizabeth gets nervous. She says she has to leave and hurries back to the circus because Luke has summoned her. When she arrives, she sees her friend Billy being beaten by Luke's assistant. Then, Luke appears and warns her. Every time she leaves without his permission, one of her friends will be punished. That's her consequence. Meanwhile, Cam walks past the circus and notices it's closed. He takes the chance and slips inside, determined to find out the secret of the mermaid and the magical water. Quietly, he makes his way to Luke's room. There, he overhears Luke talking to his assistant about a girl who has the exact same magical power as the mermaid. Luke orders him to bring her to him as soon as possible. Then, Luke walks to his piano, presses a few hidden keys, and reveals a secret compartment. Inside is a small box holding a glowing blue necklace. He makes sure it's still there and carefully hides it again. Just then, Cam hears a breathtaking voice singing nearby. He follows it to Elizabeth's tent and finds her singing. When she sees him, she quickly warns him to leave before Luke finds him there, saying Luke would hurt him if he did. Moments later, Luke walks in for real. He tells Cam he shouldn't be there and forces him out of the circus. Right after, Tora, Elizabeth's friend, approaches Cam. She warns him to stay away from Elizabeth because being near her puts her in danger. Cam asks why, but she just says, "You'll know everything in time." It's clear Elizabeth cares for Cam. And Tora is afraid Luke might discover this and hurt her. Later that night, Lauren takes Cam and Ella on a boat trip, saying they'll be amazed by the beauty of the ocean. But Cam isn't interested. He stays in his cabin, writing about the mysterious mermaid and the magical water. Then he suddenly feels like someone is watching him. Sure enough, Elizabeth is standing there quietly. She tells him she loves stories. Cam asks if she's really a mermaid, but she says she can't answer that. Then he asks about the magical water. She nods, saying magic is real, but what Luke does isn't. She admits she can't tell him more than that. Just then, Ella walks in, overjoyed to see Elizabeth. She grabs her hand, and the two start dancing together. While they dance, Piggy comes to Cam and quietly warns him, telling him he's right about Luke. Luke had cast a spell on her once, but it didn't work. She warns Cam to stay away from Luke and never let him get close to Ella, because Ella is special. Cam doesn't understand what she means, but before he can ask, the music pulls him in. He dances with Elizabeth, feeling happier than ever. Suddenly, Elizabeth takes his hand and pulls him outside, saying the moon has risen. They stand together, looking at its reflection on the water. But then, the waves grow stronger. Elizabeth realizes Luke is calling for her. Without a word, she runs from Cam and disappears. Cam searches everywhere, but she's gone. He assumes she must have jumped into the ocean, so he dives in after her. Cam is stunned when he sees Elizabeth's legs transform into shimmering fins. She darts through the water at incredible speed. He swims after her, following her all the way to an underwater cave. Sensing his presence, Elizabeth decides it's time to tell him the truth. She explains that Luke has been using her, tricking her into giving him part of her soul, which lets him control her. And that's not all. He's been selling the water she swims in as healing water. Because of the magic she carries, people feel better for a while after swimming in it. But when the magic fades, they return to how they were before. Cam urges her to escape, but Elizabeth tells him she can't. She's bound to Luke. Worse, if she even tried, Luke would hurt her friends, Billy and Tora. Cam promises he'll find a way to free her and her friends from Luke's grip. When he returns home, he finds Lauren in tears, asking where he's been. She tells him that Ella has disappeared. He rushes to Ella's room. She's gone. But on the floor, he spots a single feather. He remembers seeing one just like it on the hat of one of Luke's men. In that moment, Cam pieces it together. Luke must have taken Ella. Sure enough, Ella is locked in a cage, and right beside her, Elizabeth is imprisoned too. Luke arrives, telling Elizabeth he's going to take her power forever, meaning he plans to kill her. Then he turns to Ella, offering to make her a mermaid, but only if she makes a deal and accepts his terms. Ella refuses. Luke smirks and says he'll just put her back in the cage until she's ready to reconsider. A little later, Cam arrives and spots Ella locked inside the cage. He asks her where the keys are, and she tells him. He quickly grabs them, unlocks the door, and tells her to run with Tora while he goes to rescue Elizabeth. But Tora warns him. Elizabeth can't leave without her soul. Luke has hidden it somewhere. That's when Cam remembers the small box he once saw Luke stash inside the piano. He hurries over, pulls out the box, and finds a glass vial glowing with blue light. The vessel holding Elizabeth's soul. Tora casts a spell that freezes everyone in place, including Luke. It's only temporary, just long enough for Cam to burst into the show, pull Elizabeth out of the tank, and escape with her. Minutes later, the spell wears off. Luke realizes Elizabeth is gone. He rushes to check the vial, but it's missing. Furious, he orders his henchmen to search for it. Meanwhile, Cam, Ella, Elizabeth, Billy, and Tora race to the train station. They keep running until they make it on board. Ella, exhausted, takes the medicine Cam gives her. Then Cam pulls out the glowing vial and hands it to Elizabeth, who thanks him for everything he's done. But suddenly, the train screeches to a stop. Luke is using magic to hold it. Billy fights off Luke's men, giving everyone a chance to escape. Tora uses her magic to start an abandoned car, and they all pile in, speeding toward the forest. Ella grows weaker, and Cam realizes they left the medicine back on the train. He's ready to turn back, but Ella tells him she's fine. Their priority is to get Elizabeth to the ocean as quickly as possible, so they keep going. But Luke and his men were closing in. That's when Billy decided to step forward, face them, and hold them off so the others could escape. He managed to overpower Luke's assistant. At that moment, Elizabeth suddenly transformed into a mermaid under Luke's magic. The change left her weak. Without her human form, she couldn't survive on land for long. Then their car broke down. Tora quickly decided to confront Luke herself, telling Cam to carry Elizabeth through the forest. At the end of the forest, he would find the lake. Cam lifted Elizabeth and ran, while Tora stayed behind to fight. But Luke's magical power was far greater than hers, and she couldn't hold him off for long. Luke eventually reached the lake and told Elizabeth she would die, and that her power would belong to him forever. When Cam tried to stop him, Luke struck him with his magic. That's when Elizabeth, Ella, and Tora decided to fight together. The three of them cast a spell, and, united, they finally defeated Luke. Cam regained consciousness, rushed to Elizabeth, and carried her to the lake. There, she recovered the missing part of her soul and returned to her true form. As for Ella, she discovered her cure was swimming. And we learned that Elizabeth and Cam shared an extraordinary love story, one between a man and a mermaid, living their lives between the sea and the shore. And with that, the grandmother ended her story for the children. In the final moment, Jeannie asked her grandmother about Ella, and to everyone's surprise, the grandmother herself was Ella. And so, the story came to an end.